Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dream Leapers. I'm your host, Harriette Cole. Very happy to be with you today. And guess what? I think a lot of you know that many moons ago, I wrote a book called Jumping the Broom. That was my very first book, Wedding Planner for Black couples. And I have been working for the past year on a new version. It's going to be called Jumping the Broom today. It is coming out next year in August. And in my research and talking to lots of wonderful people about the journey of getting married for Black couples, I have met a wonderful woman who is going to be our guest today. She is a visionary leader who took a meaningful leap in her career that brought her closer to her purpose, and it has to do with bridal. Her name is Mary Chatman. She is the owner, CEO, editor-in-chief, and publisher of Black Bride magazine. Before becoming an entrepreneur, Mary built a successful corporate career in technology and global business development at AT&T. And she ultimately retired early. She did that to pursue a journey rooted in purpose, love, and legacy. Mary's relationship with Black Bride magazine began first as a contributor. She was writing about love and marriage, and eventually that led her to acquire the brand. Under her leadership, Black Bride has evolved into a powerful platform celebrating Black love, relationships, culture, and family, while creating greater visibility for the talented professionals behind those meaningful moments. Her work has earned national recognition, including the Black Women in Media Award for Publishing, and led to collaborations with major brands, including Sony and TriStar Pictures. Today, Mary is a media executive, speaker, marriage advocate, and bridal authority whose mission is grounded in one powerful belief: representation matters. Please join me in welcoming Mary Chatman to Dream Leapers.
Well, good afternoon, Harriette. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy that I got to meet you finally. I can't believe that in these, it feels like this should be concentric circles, but this is our first time actually meeting.
Absolutely. And this is surreal for me. It's like someone pinched me, I'm talking to Harriette Cole. I'm on her show. Like, this is unbelievable when I think about, the respect and, the acknowledgement that I have for your career and what you've done and contributed. I knew all about the book, the first book, and it just so ties in so well, with Black Bride, because so many brides are still jumping the broom.
They are indeed. And so Black Bride, what is the anniversary that's coming up for the magazine?
Well, the next anniversary, we're in our 28th year. 29 comes up in January. But we'll be celebrating like all year, just in small ways, because I always feel like you got to go the full year to say, okay, my 28th year, my 29th year, you got to go the full year. So next year.
When did you acquire the magazine?
I acquired the magazine, and sometimes I lose count only because it feels like it's been mine all along. But I would say 15 years or so now. It's getting close to the 15th year.
What made you feel like this was what you needed to focus on? Because you had this corporate career, a very great, thriving corporate career, and you made a huge pivot. What gave you that bravery and that push to say, I have to do this?
I would say it was just God, like the light bulb moment where I realized that, what I was doing, even in other areas, was my purpose. Even how the previous owner, Renee Harrington, found me to start writing about love, like you said, relationships, marriage, romance. And then I was also doing it for Mommy Mag and Hitch Mag, which is an online magazine based out of California. And so I was getting there, the journey. When I look back, I could see how it all came together, but definitely through prayer, through doing that writing. And then I wanted to start, a multicultural magazine for brides because there was nothing out there. And one day I was at the grocery store and I looked around and I saw all these, wonderful magazines, The Knot, Bride, all of the big names. And there wasn't a Black woman in sight.
Right.
I thought, I'm going to start my own magazine. And then I started writing for Black Bride, which was already established.
Right.
And so writing for them. And then, I kind of stopped writing. I went away for a little while. One of my sisters passed away, and I stopped writing because journalism's I have a degree in journalism, so but I love writing and I love relationships and marriage and all that good stuff. And I just took a pause, and when I came back and her having it up for acquisition, it didn't take much, but I did, I have to pray about everything. So I prayed about it, and God said yes. He said yes, and he actually just literally handed me a platform that I didn't, have to launch per se. But when I took over, I did make it my own. I had to make it my own. Had to rebrand, do the new website, do all the things that I had written down to do with a magazine that I wanted to start. But God said no to that and yes to this.
Well, you know what? The power of prayer, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And so, I wrote Jumping the Broom when I was still at Essence many moons ago. And I had first run the lifestyle department and later the fashion department. And Essence back then, this is starting in the 80s, Essence was the only magazine that was doing bridal. It was once a year, but we did this huge bridal section, both in the lifestyle department and in the fashion department, learning everything that we could about traditions and rituals and finding Black designers. And so the opportunity to write Jumping the Broom came to me because a publisher saw that and said, look, we need this in a book. I'm like, really? Yeah. Well, I always wanted to write a book. I had no idea my first book was going to be Jumping the Broom, but this was God led. Like the phone rang and an agent called me and said, we have identified you to write this book. I'm like, for real?
I didn't realize that was your first, because that one was like, right, that was the bomb, and it was just right on time.
Yeah. And,
and we needed that history. Sure. We needed the history of that whole.
We did. And so, even though it's called Jumping the Broom, it's like everything bridal, everything of planning a wedding. And this go round, how it has come to be is because another publisher said couples need it today. They need to know what's happening today. How are Black people getting married today? And one of the things that I learned, and I see in looking at your magazines, different magazines, different issues, there are lots of Black vendors who service the bridal industry, but people do not know that. People don't know that you can actually go to a primo designer, fashion designer, and get a beautiful wedding dress that's made by somebody Black. Yeah. That every aspect of the wedding could be serviced by a Black vendor if you wanted to. Yes. When you are presenting information in the magazine, how are your readers responding to learning about Black vendors who source different things from bridal?
They are so excited. Like, where have you guys been? They're loving it, and they're feeling culturally astute, if you will, because now they have the knowledge and the wisdom to have an all Black cast for their wedding, because the wedding is a production now.
Oh yeah.
So it's truly from hair and makeup and all of that. And these wedding pros are amazing. And they're in a lot, they're unheard of, a lot of them. And I love that part of the business, the B2B aspect, to where, we can facilitate that and be a resource for couples that, houses all these amazing Black wedding professionals that have really honed their skill and their craft. They're not on CP time. They're showing up. They're doing the work. I know that there are popular, non-African-American planners out there. They're getting all the limelight, but hey, hire a Black wedding pro. They know what they're doing. They really do.
And there are quite a few out there. I want to hear about your journey. Where are you from, and what did you dream that you wanted to be when you were a little girl?
Oh my gosh, that's easy. I just knew that I was going to be a model. No one was going to tell me that I was not going to model. And when I saw like all of the Naomi Campbell, like all of the top Black models, which is not that many, because even looking at me, I got all the no's when I went to New York. I talked my mom into letting me go when I was 16. And
where are you from?
I'm from Ohio originally. I was born in Youngstown, raised in Akron, Ohio, went to high school there. And what happened was when I went there, I started getting all of these, it was tough. The modeling industry is tough. And back then it was even tougher, as you can, listen to Veronica Webb's story, all of those famous, beautiful women. And my complexion was not received. They were like, who's going to relate to you? And I mean, it was mean. And my mother was like, no, you're coming home. You got to get a job. Because it was like, who's going to relate to you? Black people, white people, like, and that could have crushed me. But
and when you say your complexion, you mean because you're a light-skinned Black woman?
Oh yeah, I was too light. No, I didn't fit. I did not fit at all, and they were cruel. Like when I was going on go-sees, and I was just so excited because I'm 5'11", so I'm very tall.
So
and
you
I
were
was
the right height.
I was like a size 7'8", so super skinny. Back then that's like really skinny for a tall person. And I just knew that was what I was going to do. I had been looking at Essence and all these magazines with these models, and I'm like, I'm going to be in there. And when I got that rude awakening where they were just so mean, and it's a good thing that my parents raised me with the strength to know who I am and be perfectly comfortable. And people still even question me today about that. Well, I've always got a great answer, but that's a whole nother topic. But, I really had to go home because my mother, I would be crushed oftentimes talking to her on the phone. And
it's a rough business because
it's very rough.
They tell you don't take things personal, but actually
you do.
This is specifically personal because they are looking at you for what you represent. And your models are selected based upon what is the need at this moment, and do you fit the need, period. And it has everything to do with what you look like.
Absolutely. And I knew how a lot of specifically Veronica Webb, I say her because she's the fairest complected, to me, successful, like most successful model out there, from our culture in terms of complexion. People think of, Naomi Campbell and, all the dark skin, models, but I was crushed. I really was. But, like I said, I had great parents, so I didn't wallow in that.
Did you get any jobs as a model?
I did local designers. Yeah. I one Cavetta Mathis was a local designer. She took me everywhere. I went to New Orleans. I went to Florida. I was able to, get that feeling of what that was like to model. So yes, I would always get local stuff. Macy's back then was M. O'Neill, all these companies had different names, but yeah, I got my feeling of what it was like to model. Yeah, but
so interesting.
Eventually, yeah.
I also, as a young person, modeled starting at age 13. I'm from Baltimore, and it was in the church fashion shows and those things. And then I went to Howard. And so there were huge fashion shows at Howard, huge productions. Yeah. Yes. And I was in all of those shows. And then I was in the Congressional Black Caucus fashion show a few times, which was a big production.
Okay. Great.
And when I moved, I was asked to go to Paris to model. But you know what? The thing is, and I think it's similar to what you're saying, that like how you're judged, how you look. I was too self-conscious. I did not think that I was tough enough to withstand the scrutiny every day.
Because it's very tough.
I didn't think I could do it. So I decided to go on the other side of the camera in editorial. Although when I came to New York at first, I came to New York to work for Essence, but I did some freelance modeling in the early years. And mainly it was like showroom modeling. I did that a little bit. Which is not the glamour, that is not the.
No, it's like the showroom, I know. I did all those types of things, but never like on the big fashion runways like I dreamt of as a little girl. Because I went to Wendy Ward modeling school when I was 13. Okay. My mom let me go, and I went for 3 years until I was 16, and she says, okay. And that's when I went off to New York and had that rude awakening, and when I came back, a few years later,
You
I
got to
just,
do something else.
I like, okay, well, I like technology, because I like the, just everything tech because it's just interesting and fun,
And
and
that was
especially
really
back
good
then.
that you were interested in that at first. Let me remind folks, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking right now with Mary Chatman. She is the publisher of Black Bride magazine. And right now we're kind of learning about her journey. So Mary, the whole tech thing. So now tech is everything. When you were coming up, it
Yeah,
was blossoming, right?
yeah.
Like what attracted you to tech in those early years?
Well, I always wanted to work for Ohio Bell because
Mm,
that was a big deal. If you were working for any Bell operating company back then, you people knew that you had a good job, a great job, actually. And I was so young and always had these big dreams of things, everything I wanted to do. I started out young, thinking about these things. And when I went to apply, I was just so shocked that, I got a call back. I actually missed, one of the questions and I thought that I had failed. But what I did was I stayed after everyone left. This really just gets my nieces and my girls so excited. They're like, "Mom, your story is so inspiring what you did." But I stayed afterwards and I asked that lady, could I talk to her, the administrator of the test. And I went in her office and I talked to her, and I'll never forget this, of course. And I told her, I says, I she didn't tell me, that I had failed then, but I told her, I says, I really hope that I get a call back. I says, because I've wanted to work here, my whole, life, or since, my brother-in-law used to work there at the time. Has since passed away, but it was just a big deal to work there. So I went and asked for the job. And she told me after I went through all this, pouring my heart out about working there, she says, well, she says, you missed one of the questions, So in other words, I failed the
oh,
test. I missed one question. And she says, but you know what? I'm going to put your name on the list for a callback. And I'm telling you, I thought I was just kicking my heels up when I walked out there. Because I said, because she said that, watch, they're going to call me. I said, they're going to call me because how could she say that knowing that I missed a question? She says, it's your persistence is what's making me want to call you back.
all right.
And I'm telling you, maybe a month later, because I went on and I was like, they might not call me. She called me. She called me in for part-time. And she says,
Okay.
I advise you to take this because then if if you work out and you work hard, then it'll turn to full-time. And that started my career.
Wow. And so what did you do there?
At that point, I was an order writer. I
Okay.
was writing orders for people that wanted new phone service.
Okay.
And
And then
I thought that was such a big deal back then. I
I
think it
hear
was
you.
only
And
like,
then how did your career evolve in tech?
my career evolved in tech because they, with divestiture, the Bell operating company split up. The government made them split, and my job went with AT&T.
Mm,
And so at that point, then I started selling small business equipment.
okay.
Okay, and then that job led me to the data center. And then the data center was led to like a higher paying job as a processing associate, a data processing associate.
Hmm.
And they had different levels to that, 1, 2, 3. And so I climbed all the, I was a 1, a 2, and a 3. And then I kind of got bit by the management bug. I was like, oh, I want to manage people because I saw these people in jobs that really shouldn't be managing people for corporate. They should not be managing people. A lot of times I didn't even know their names. And I'm like, that's not good. You want to invest in your people and know who they are. And so I applied, after being there for years, I applied for a job. And it was a project management job. And I took that, and then I became a project manager, and it was over data services because it's in a data center. And then I started thinking, okay, I want to learn all of the groups like data, voice, IP, and local service. The four arms of data processing that makes a data center run. So I learned all of those and became a project manager at different times for all those groups. And then my career led me into sales. And I started working with this guy who could not believe that I was a project manager. He was
Why?
like, Mary, he's like, you're amazing. This guy, he's like, why are you just, you need to be like a director or something. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, because I'm always thinking when people
Oh,
say
so you mean in terms of that you hadn't been promoted
yes, but at
beyond that?
that point, because of my performance, like my
So let me
performance.
ask you something to that point, because I have worked with a lot of people in corporate America over the years in my coaching work.
Oh,
And one of the things that I hear people of color talk about is it takes a long time, maybe a longer time to get to kind of climb that ladder. Did
mhm.
you ever feel like being a Black woman was hindering you at all as you
I
in your
did. Absolutely, I did. I felt that way. Um, Probably, I would say, the first 8 years of my career there, because I know that I was like a little bit of a introvert, but I was at the same time ambitious. But I wasn't the type to brown note. Like my parents always taught us to do your work as though unto the Lord when you go to work. Don't worry about brown nosing and hanging out with people and trying to be seen and all that. Just keep your head, do your work, and
Yeah,
then go above and beyond when you have the opportunity.
yeah.
And that's what I did because back then I listened to my parents. I don't know about who's not listening to their parents today, but my parents to me were like the gospel next to the Lord, and the minister at church. Like I had the fear of not
And
being.
what were they telling you to do?
That's what they were saying, to do your work as though unto the Lord,
Okay.
and don't be going to work, being lazy and hanging out, and you make sure you dress the part. And I would go to work because even after I did get into management, a lot of the employees that worked for me, they were like, I want to be like you, because they were young. I want to be like you when I grow up, Miss Mary. You come to work and you are sharp. You fly even on Friday, jean day. You got on a blazer. I'm like, well,
That's what we
yeah,
learned. I grew up like
that's what
that too.
I learned. I watched my dad and my mom.
Mhm.
So anyway, that all of that did lead to me getting into the director role eventually. But it was just like God was using people. Honestly, Harriet, the guy that said that to me, he said, why are you, he said, you need, and then when we would go in our meetings with our manager, because he was this guy Todd, he was a account executive, and he just thought like the world of me. Even his clients did. When we would go out and meet with clients and so forth, they always wanted to talk to me. And I said, Todd, that's just because they know you just want to sell to them. They want to talk to me because they know I'm going to handle their account.
Right.
And so, he went in there and he was talking to the guy. His name was Rick. I just will never forget this. I know this was God too. All throughout my career there, he just was doing things. And so Todd was in there just talking about me to this guy, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, we're supposed to be talking about our base and what we're doing to get more RFPs. Like, what? Why are you talking about me? I didn't say that. I was looking at
You're
him like,
thinking it. Yeah.
yeah, I was thinking it. And so we left, and then eventually he ended up leaving the group maybe a couple months after that. And then one day he called me and he says, Mary, he says, there's an opening up here in the group I'm in. He's like, I think you should apply for it. And I said, well, what is it? He said, it's a SG6, which is a director role. And it was two levels above what the management level I was at then. And I thought, at first I had that little bit of doubt because I'm like, damn, people ain't gonna hire no Black woman, they're not gonna let me skip 2 levels and go to that level. Well, I interviewed with Katie, the hiring manager, and it went well, to me, it went well. And I went back, to my desk and left, and I didn't hear anything from her for about maybe 3 weeks at the time. And she called me and she said, while I was at work, and she said, could you come up to my office? And I was like, this woman is about to give me a job. I knew it then. I was just like, my skin was just like, because I'm like, why would she be calling me? She doesn't have to call me to say she's not going to hire me.
Right.
So when I got up there, that's what she said. She said, but guess what? I've been looking into your records. And she says, I'm going to have to give you a raise just to bring you into this group. Now, that's how I knew that I wasn't being paid properly.
Right.
With that whole Mika Brzezinski at MSN.
Oh, sure, yes.
In whatever that show is that she's
on. Yes, Morning Joe.
Morning Joe. I know it's Morning Joe, but I'm trying to think of the
network. You mean her program?
The program about.
Yes, and I've heard her talk about just, it doesn't matter who you are, and especially today. Women. And it's not just women now, but she was talking about women. But, if you are not a white male today, you are considered an annoyance, which is a frightening thing. But good to know that people had your back and gave you that opportunity. So you built a really great career for yourself. You were able to get to higher levels, but you pivoted. You stepped off. And I mean, look, for a lot of people in corporate America, it is not only can you have a good job and a good career, there's a level of comfort in having that paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And having that 401k and all the things that come with a corporate job, especially something like AT&T, which is this huge
being a director,
stable business. To become an entrepreneur takes a lot of bravery. Clearly, I'm hearing you, and faith is a driving force in your life. When you decided that this was what you wanted to do, talk about getting the courage to make that happen.
I mean, I just feel like the whole story of everything really, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, that their life is a movie, but when I look back over it, I just get astonished, my own self, because it had to all be God led. It couldn't have been me, just thinking about all these things that led to that. And that same manager, she was a division manager herself as a woman, and we had become close, because we were all like at her house, for the holidays, and she just really looked after her group, and she came to me and she says, Mary, I have to tell you this. She says, I don't want to, because I don't want to lose you, but I have to tell you because I care. She says, the last good package is coming down the pipe. And she says, I know you have way more in you, and like I said, I hate to lose you, but if I don't tell you about this and you find out, you're going to be upset with me, And I says, well, what is it, Katie? And she told me that it was, the last good package, that this layoff was coming. Well, I guess you could call it a buyout or whatever, they called it back then. And she says, it's not, they're not going to give it this complete, all your benefits. You're not going to get that anymore, because they're not, this is it, And so I thought, okay, God is pushing me out the door to do something else, but I don't know what it is, And so I started thinking about the things that I could do, because I used to travel a lot with that job too. And then my husband was traveling a lot. He was an executive at Coca-Cola. So we both had, traveling jobs. And I got kind of bit by the entrepreneur bug back then. And I wanted to do something really nice for him, because I feel that a lot of times couples, especially when they have traveling jobs, but even if you have kids and stuff, it's like people really get intimacy and sex kind of like confused, because you don't really have time for the intimacy part because you're just like two ships in the night. So I started this company called Love Life Designs, which is now the parent company to Black Bride. But that's what it did. It did romantic decorating for couples.
Oh, wait, romantic decorating. So wait, let me pause for a moment. Let me pause for a moment. Remind folks, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with Mary Chatman, who is the publisher of Black Bride magazine, and it's getting juicy, you guys. She's telling us something. What did you call it again?
Romantic decorating, and I call it that because
decorating. What does that mean, Mary?
It just means that you're taking time out to reverence each other. Like, to me, that's how I, phrase it, because it's like you're two ships in the night. So I thought, well, when he comes home, because he was gone and I was gone, we were both coming home, and I said, I'm going to pick up some rose petals, some candles, and some little wine, and I'm going to make dinner and surprise him when he walks in. And that's exactly what I did. And the rose petals led from where he came in, of course, to the tub. And then my sister, she had made him a cake. It was his birthday too. And she had made him a cake and brought it over. And when she came in, she says, oh my gosh, she said, this is so gorgeous. I got fancy with it, Harriette. I had draping in the dining room, like on the little, poles that were in there, the columns and stuff that were in there. And it was just beautiful. Like, she's like, this is like a Grecian scene. Like, what's going on here? And I told her about it. And she says, I think you have a business. I think that's something you could do for other people for their wedding night, even.
Nice.
So she was laying the foundation. God, to start.
She was naming it. Yeah,
she was naming it, right? And so we had a couple of friends of ours. I said, okay, because and the night was over, blah blah blah. So about a month later, I'll start thinking about what Katie had said to me about the package and what I could possibly do, once I left. And then I thought, and so we had two friends of ours, and both are real estate agents in Atlanta. And we were like, they were getting married, and we're like, well, what can we give them? They probably have they don't need a toaster, And I was like, let's try this package thing out on them. And we'll decorate if they're going to have a local hotel before they go on honeymoon, let's decorate it, And I did that, and I did it like in the canary yellow. That was the colors of their wedding. I had the rose petals were yellow. Everything was just beautiful.
Pretty.
And I timed it, lit the candles, and we left their room. And when they showed up, they called us, and we're like, why are you guys calling us? This is your honeymoon. And she was crying, and she says, Mary, she said, this is the perfect ending to my wedding day. She says, all of the stress and then walking in here, she said, this is beautiful,
Oh, that's so sweet.
I thought, uh-oh.
So this literally launched business for you.
It did.
How sweet.
I started an LLC. I set everything up. It was legitimate. And actually, AT&T gave us $10,000 as a part of the package to start the business. And so that's exactly what I did.
That's beautiful.
And that's how Renee found me to start writing for Black Bride.
Because of what you were doing.
Because of what I was doing.
And so this is now what? How many years ago? But like
15 at least.
15 years ago. And as you were doing this, what was happening in the world of bridal back then? Like what was inspiring brides back then?
I think back then, what was inspiring brides is destination weddings, which is back now. I mean,
yes.
I don't think it ever left. I think that it's just up to the individual. Some people want.
It's very popular now. You're right.
Very popular now. Definitely trending.
And Mary, what's interesting, because as I was doing research for my book, we found that many couples who have destination weddings end up having big weddings, like 100 people, 150 people will go to another country. It used to be, I remember that, it used to be if you wanted to have something intimate, you might go to another country because only your closest friends and family would make the trip. Now, You better get ready because you could have.
Again, it's a production. It's like how many people can we get? And they're talking to the travel
Yes.
agent, and because we have a couple that are travel agents that are advertisers, and they're like, Mary, Stephanie over at KT Travel, she's like, they're making like a whole production out of this. I've
Yes.
got to find hair and makeup, and they're bringing the whole family and friends and coworkers, whoever can come.
So let's get to that point because one of the couples that I interviewed was going to do destination and ended up choosing a location in the States because she had talked to some friends who had such difficulty finding a hairstylist who knew how to do black hair, finding a makeup artist who knew how to do brown skin.
Mhm.
And she had horror stories for that.
Oh my.
Other people I talked to did find stylists, and then
Mhm.
yet another person brought her stylist with her. What are you finding? What are the trends now that you're seeing for couples to do?
What I'm seeing to alleviate that type of nightmare, because
Mhm.
that's what it feels like, even down to not finding a DJ. And you cannot have a reception
Right.
without a DJ. So to alleviate that, they're using a travel agent that
Oh,
specializes in weddings. Because
okay.
the travel agent will find the hair person, they will find the makeup artist, they will find the DJ. Because a lot of our vendors are working together, even, and I love seeing it. That it'll be like, okay, even some of the planning piece, she might relinquish to the planner, and they work
Okay.
together. You know, as a travel agent, while meanwhile she's over here booking everything, finding the location first of all, the venue, and then booking all the rooms and making sure that everybody understands what they need to travel. Their passports. Do you have all of the things you're going to need
Right.
for the logistic part, and then the planning part she's left to the planner. So they're working together.
So that's interesting because the travel agents, there seem to be fewer travel agents now than, you know, years back.
Yeah,
Everybody had a travel agent. Now
yeah.
people are using those apps. And what happens is if you use the app and then you have to change anything,
Have a
it's a
nightmare.
mess. It's a
Mhm.
complete nightmare. So
Yeah.
so where are couples finding these travel agents?
I don't know, but I know for us, they're finding them on blackride.com.
Okay, you have travel agents
We have some
listed.
travel agents on there, and
Okay.
and because they specialize in weddings,
Okay.
they're excellent. They're really, doing the thing for the couples, and they're happy, and they're fully invested in the couple. They spend time
Great.
to make sure everything's together. And I recommend that to anybody that wants to do
Sure. I think
destination.
travel agents are great. I
Mhm.
have found it difficult to find them. So it's good to know
Yeah,
that.
and it's like, you remember for a while there, everybody wanted to be a travel
I know.
agent, and then some. I don't know. You're right. I don't know what
I think it's
happened.
those apps. I think those apps have, it's very
Yeah,
affordable. You can go on these different apps and find competitive prices, but if you have to change something,
yeah. That's what Stephanie, I know at KT, she's always putting like posts up on social media, reminding people that, hey, you don't use that app, because if you have to change, you're right. If you have to change something, you're going to be out of luck, and they're
right.
very unhappy. And she's even had to work with brides that have experienced that. And
Mhm.
then when they come to her, they're
It's a
where they
mess.
need to
Oh,
be. Yeah,
oh,
they're a
oh.
mess, but she gets them straightened out. And she's amazing. So
So let's talk about the role of a wedding planner because I interviewed a lot of wedding planners for this book and discovered that people, no matter what your budget, it's helpful to have somebody help you, right?
yes.
What do you what the range of things that a wedding planner can do for a wedding? What would that be, and what do you recommend based upon what you've
Oh
seen?
my gosh, the range of a wedding planner, Lord, is everything from that toolkit with the safety pins in it, to making sure that your wildest dreams are met for your wedding, whether that's you know having your dad that may have passed away in remembrance in some way at the wedding, whether that's with a hanky that's tucked inside, your dress or his suit jacket or whatever. They are like your everything, and highly recommend having a planner, because otherwise it's just going to be, honestly, a nightmare. Because you know why? There's so many moving parts
Yeah.
to manage, and the bride is there trying to work, trying to, be engaged, because it's engagement season. We're
Yes, it
supposed to be
is.
having a good time, not stressing, and really getting to know each other, and planning out your future together. You're not supposed to be stressing over what kind of, once you do the cake tasting, like, did I pick the right person? That's the planner's job, to take you to the cake makers that they recommend for
Right.
you to sit down with and taste the different cakes.
Hmm.
So having a wedding planner is priceless. They bring it all together. They find the photographer, they introduce you to the venue, they make sure that your dress matches your venue style. I mean,
Yes,
they
which is so
literally
important.
are, yes,
Hmm.
they find the hairstylist.
Do you find these days that grooms are more actively involved in the details than in the past?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, the grooms are really getting into it now. The grooms care more about their look. They want their tuxedo, their suits, whatever they're getting married in, to be the bomb. They care about their shoes. They want to make sure that they're, doing something with their guys. They're having, a cigar and, some type of, like, alcohol, whatever they drink, with their buddies, and they're excited. And I love seeing that now. I talk to grooms sometimes. They'll call Black Bride and they'll say, "Can you guys feature, my bride to be?"
That's nice.
She wants to be. She wants us. She wants you to share, her photo. And I'm thinking, are you the groom? Like, this is so sweet.
That is
And I
so
love
sweet.
seeing them more active, because that was one of the things for me that was kind of a pet peeve, where the guys back in the day, they used to say, "Well, whatever she wants."
Right. Yes.
And I'm like, "Well, it's your day too. What do you want?"
Exactly. I love that there's a lot more partnership
Mhm.
in the planning of the wedding and the executing of the wedding, and also paying for the wedding. It used to be the bride's family paid for everything except for the rehearsal dinner and the alcohol, right? And now it's much more the couple, I think, too, because they are
Yeah.
getting married later in life
That's
than,
what I was gonna just say. I was gonna say that kind of depends on the age,
yeah.
because I talked to a dad recently as well, who wants his daughter featured in the magazine. It's like the parents and the groom, the dads. This is a dad,
Wow.
and he's just, was telling me about all the bills and stuff that are coming in, and I'm thinking, I think I'm gonna ask him, and I did. I was like, "So are you paying for the wedding?" And he's like, "Yeah." The venue and everything. They're getting married in Italy.
Beautiful. A lot of people have chosen Italy and
Yeah,
Portugal.
that's a big
Those
one
they
now.
seem to be really popular these days. And of course, when parents can afford to pay for it, I think they still do, and they
Yeah.
certainly help. But as people are older and having their
Yes.
own careers and everything, there's a
Hmm.
lot more independence
For
around
sure. Absolutely.
the wedding than there once was. Let me remind folks, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with Mary Chatman, who is the publisher of Black Bride magazine. It is 28 years old. Can you believe that? It's been around for a long time, servicing
Yes.
Black brides and Black couples. I want us to look at some of these covers, and I want you to tell us the story of some of the covers. So, Fallon, could you pull up one of the covers for me? And for those who are listening, we'll describe it to you. So, tell us, this is the R&B star Tank and his wife, whose name is Zena. Tell us about them.
Oh my gosh, those two are hilarious together. When we shot that cover in Virginia on sprawling acres of land, it was just beautiful. Green, just acres and acres of land. And of course, both of them, they're in the entertainment industry, so
Mhm.
they absolutely weren't used to that. But look at her dress. Like,
The beautiful.
They just turned out and they were so funny. Xena is just hilarious when she's talking to Tank. You can tell that their marriage thrives, through a lot of the having a sense of humor attitude.
That's nice.
Because he kind of ignores her, like when she cracks jokes or says things. Oh, he'll be all right, like stuff like that, and we're just trying to tend to everything. And she's like, it's fine. He'll be okay.
I love it.
And then, he's just like cracking jokes, and they both, beforehand, I thought that they were both very serious, but they are so much fun, the two of them. I love doing that shoot.
That's great. Let's go to another one.
Photographer is amazing too.
Yep, the beautiful pictures. All right, here we have Raven Goodwin.
Goodwin. Raven, oh my gosh, her and her husband, amazing shoot. Amazing shoot. Look at that dress.
She looks fantastic.
Like, she just owned that shoot. Like, she was so into it, and the moving and the confidence that
she looks really beautiful. And I love, Susan Taylor taught us we have to show women of every size. This is a beautiful, curvy woman. And I know you see her confidence, and I know that would inspire a lot of the brides who are looking at the magazine say, oh, I can look like that too.
And I get chills when I look at that one, because of that very reason of how she owned her where she is. She wasn't trying to be, like, I can't work. She just was like,
she's standing in her beauty. That's so true. Let's go to the next one. All right. Now, this couple, so my producer is in Montgomery, Alabama. And she was telling me about, this is the mayor of where?
Alabama.
Right. He's right. So tell us about him and his wife.
Mayor Woodfin and Kendra are just amazing, good people, very down to earth. This is from their wedding, so this was their real wedding. We didn't do the shoot with them, but
beautiful.
I spoke with them and I've talked with them, and he's doing amazing things for the state period and for the city of Birmingham, and he's so loved. He just he got reelected. And Kendra, they had their first child together after the wedding, not too far after the wedding, but they're just amazing, an amazing couple. Beautiful.
I love that you have such a range of people on the cover too. It certainly is showing your readers the range of who is getting married and what Black love looks like. Let's go to another couple.
And also people that they may not have insight to, but they want to know more about.
And by the way, also speaking of Alabama, because another thing that's happening just in our country right now, the South is getting beat up, and we need to have these elected officials in place. And to see them is so important.
Yes, is really, she's fighting her race. We're hoping she wins here in Atlanta as first female governor in the country. And Black on top of that. I mean, absolutely.
People need to get out to vote.
Absolutely.
So this is a beautiful model, clearly, but this is the 10th anniversary issue of the magazine. What a gorgeous picture. Tell us about this.
This was we shot this on what is that? Black History, the beginning of Black History Month. And we went to some historical spots, like just some landmarks, where MLK. So on the inside, you can see some of that for this issue. But this was just so amazing to me, because it was like our first kind of couture look, for a model with the big hair. And we worked with amazing talent, on this cover. All the credits, of course, are inside. But I absolutely love doing this shoot. And even the location was a Black-owned person, doctor here. And he actually got that spot that we shot at for Black talent to come in and use the space. Nice. And that kind of stuff really moves me as well, because he wanted us in there, to do this shoot. And it just turned out beautifully.
It's beautiful. Mary, believe it or not, our time is up. How often, as we're about to go, I have two quick questions. How often do you print a physical magazine, and where can people find the magazine just in general?
The magazine is print on demand, so
Okay.
you can get a print copy whenever. You can go to
Okay.
blackbride.com, and there's a graphic that you can click on to order your copy, and it'll be sent right to your door. And it is housed on issue.com, which is a digital version on ISSUU.
Okay.
You can just search on Black Bride, and you can, download and purchase a copy there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been delightful to
Thank
talk to
you.
you,
Thank you for having me.
and
All
thank you
these
for making
years.
such a beautiful publication. It really is wonderful.
Thank you. I'm excited about the book
Thank
number
you.
2,
Yep.
Jumping the
Yep.
Broom. So
It's
thank you for
coming.
having me.
It's coming in 2027.
Wonderful. I'll be right
Excellent.
there for you. Let me
Thank
know.
you. Thank you so
Okay.
much. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. You can go to blackbride.com to check out all of the wonderful couples and stories and inspiration that Mary and her team are offering every month. Thank you. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.